Okay, what's good, y'all? I might seem a little flustered, or I don't know what the word is, because I don't know why I did it. I rewatched my Motorhead 1916 reaction, and the shit got me again. It got me good. So look, this is part 2 of Sabaton History 1916. Actually, it's more than 2 parts. So what's happening now is yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday, I recorded the reaction to the Motorhead 1916, which they are copyright claiming, look, but they let me take it straight to appeal. They didn't make me dispute it. They usually make you dispute it. It take up to 30 days, and then if they reject the dispute, you get an appeal. They let me go straight to appeal, which just takes 7 days. I didn't want to wait that time before I upload the Sabaton history. So the timeline is I'm going to post the Sabaton history 1916 Motorhead first, then this is the part 2, and then part 3, and then whenever they green light, if I can get the Motorhead song greenlit, I'll post it. So the timeline's gonna be out of order. But boy, y'all fucked me over with that damn Motorhead 1916. Boy, that's a jerker. That thing's a jerker. Anyways, let's get back into Sabaton history. This is 121, 1916 part 2. Let's rock.
Hello everybody, I'm Per from Sabaton.
And I'm Indy Nidell.
And you're watching Sabaton History Channel on tour.
Okay, on tour? Where are we?
We're in Mora on the Great Swedish Tour Part 2.
Part 2.
That's so dope, because y'all told me my boy right here is from Texas, right? That's crazy. He gets to tour around the world and do this. So this is just some cool shit, man. It's just some cool shit.
But before we talk about that, we're gonna talk about something else.
Take it away, Indy. I'm going to start today with a quotation from Richard van Emden's Boy Soldiers of the Great War. We had another lad killed the last day in the trenches, and the circumstances are particularly sad, for he was only 16 years of age. On Monday night, I was sitting warming myself by the coke fire, and young Crowther was sitting there too, and he looked so young and childlike as he nodded with sleepiness over the fire. Young Crowther was one of the sentries, and I gave the usual order, "Next relief there." I had only just got into the next bay when I heard a call, "Stretcher bearers." I turned and rushed back, and there was the poor lad face down in the trench, reddening the water all round with his blood. He only lived about 10 minutes. The shot entered his back, piercing the lung and bursting the main artery. So ended another young life in the twinkling of an eye.
16 years old when I went to the war to fight for a land fit.
It's probably going to make me block this, but if it doesn't, because I just stopped it, so maybe it'll break it up and it won't make me block it or mute it. But when you hear his voice, I think it's, look, man, Joaquin, y'all gonna let me know, man. It's like I say, it's powerful, it's heavy. I feel like he's singing from a prideful place. It's kind of like, I'm proud to go do this for my country. Whereas the Motorhead version is like, I can't believe I'm doing this for my country and they're gonna forget my name. I don't know, man. I got so many. I don't know. Both versions just say different things to me, but a lot of different things. So I hope I'm not confusing you guys, but man, shit, boy.
For heroes.
I'm going to keep pausing this so that maybe it won't make me block the music.
God on my side and a gun in my hand, chasing my days down to zero.
In the summer of 1914, the great majority of soldiers going to war did so in the belief of a short, victorious campaign. They would be home before the leaves fell, most certainly before Christmas at any rate. This expectation led to hundreds of thousands of volunteers rushing into the recruitment offices of their respective armies, all wanting to be part of this grand adventure. But not all of them were grown adults. A sizable portion of these volunteers were young
Man, that kid where my cursor is, I mean, he looks all of 13. The one next to him might be 17. He might be 15, 16. God, this is crazy, man.
teenagers and underage boys, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, that slipped through the cracks and got sent to the front. Soon the trenches of the Great War were filled with both the young and the old, but an enemy shell did not respect the difference in age. Throughout history, armies always had their boys with them. These might be the drummers, pipers, and buglers, teenagers who maybe suffered from abusive parents or a terrible work environment, often saw the army.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. That's something new. I didn't know that. I didn't know they had the drummer boys that were actually over there and they were product of abusive homes or just broken homes. I didn't know that.
Might be the drummers, pipers, and buglers, teenagers who maybe suffered from abusive parents or a terrible work environment, often saw the armed forces as a last resort to escape their unhappy lives. And remember, in the 19-teens, working class kids would leave school at the age of 14 or 15 to find employment or apprenticeship. Only the privileged would remain in schools until they were 18 to 21. But the Great War, the opposite of dull civilian life, attracted both groups equally. In fact, there were many politicians and aristocrats that willingly sent their young sons to the front lines to fulfill a sense of duty. Prominent among them was Belgian King Albert, who said, "I want no special treatment for my son. Let him work in the trenches. He has to know how it feels to have blisters on his hands." Belgian Crown Prince Leopold was only 13 when he joined the Belgian 12th Line Regiment. Of course, this was mostly a publicity stunt, but Leopold would actually experience the trenches and come under enemy shell fire, so mostly isn't entirely. Back then, the demands of the monarchy, the church, and the army for obedience and discipline were pretty universal.
To knowingly send your child, not only, it's like demanding it. Like, nah, he's going. Front line, in the trenches, bullets, blisters. What are you talking about? Holding his wounded fellow. Yeah, dying in his arms. Like, yo, these was some tough, thick. This skin made different, boy. That's a different skin them boys had. It's a different skin, man. Shit.
The church and the army for obedience and discipline were pretty universal, and they were intertwined with society. Each classroom would proudly display paintings of famous military leaders or decisive battles to remind students about their nation's glorious history. The armed forces were seen as bulwarks of security and identity. Maybe nowhere was this more apparent than in Imperial Germany. I mean, it was not by chance that the sailor suit was the most popular dress for young boys at the time. Teachers and professors also played a huge part in stirring up patriotic fervor among the youth, who longed to get their chance for glory worth remembering.
Okay, when the songs come on, again, I'm going to be pausing to break it up so that they may not pick it up. If it does end up being muted, then you know why.
And we wrote down our names, and we added 2 years to our ages.
Bruh, lying and adding years just so you can go fight for your country is just, it's different, man. That shit is different, man. That's a different kind of mindset to be 16, to be 14, 15, and like, nah, I'm going. Like, I'm going.
Eager for life and ahead of the
Just stop it.
game, ready for history's pages.
The lyrics, but it's Sabaton version, so I can deal with it. Like, I can deal with their version of it.
But this dream was soon shattered on the battlefields of the Great War. The Battle of Langemarck in November 1914 was quickly dubbed by the German public as the murder of children and the death of innocents. Here, a myth began to take root, that thousands of barely trained teenagers and young students were cut down by the older professionals of the British Expeditionary Force. Now, the official recruitment age in those days was between 18 and 21 in pretty much all of the warring nations. At that age, you were considered a grown adult, ready to make your own decisions, and were a man in his prime to serve in the armed forces. In peacetime, if you wanted to join up, there would be strict questioning, a general test of the senses, followed by an extensive medical examination. But in the turmoil and the chaos of the Great War, there was little time for that. The armies at the front were bleeding out, and they needed ever more men to fill the gaps. There were many cases where recruiters were even actively told to not be too strict with their demands. If a candidate looked physically fit enough to keep up with the strains of soldiery, then he was most likely waved through. Of course, officially there was a minimum height requirement, as well as necessary weight and chest measurements. But teenagers, well, they can be huge and muscled for their age, especially if they were apprentices on a farm or in the metal industry or something like that. Even the thin, the pasty-faced, the dull-eyed and pigeon-chested, though, were not necessarily excluded by more dubious recruiters. After all, a couple regular meals and a healthy lifestyle of exercise and fresh air would surely turn these youths into proper soldiers. The youngest soldier in the British Army was Sidney Lewis, who enlisted at just 12 years old. Sidney fought at the Somme, in the huge offensives there, in the bloody Battle of Delville Wood. Since he had enlisted under a fake name and address, his mother only found out his whereabouts by meeting one of his comrades who was home on leave. She promptly went...
Wait a minute. What? His mother didn't know where he was. And my boy was 12 years old. And the only way she found out was from one of his comrades who was home on leave. Are you fucking kidding me, man? This shit is real, y'all. My son will be 12 in 7 years? He still ain't gonna be able to shit. I might not even let him get his own phone at that age. And my boy went and signed up for the military, man, and went on to the Great War. The youngest soldier. Different skin, man. Different skin.
Since he had enlisted under a fake name and address, his mother only found out his whereabouts by meeting one of his comrades who was home on leave. She promptly went to the War Office, showed them her son's real birth certificate, and got him discharged. But why did a 12-year-old boy go to war in the first place?
Right.
Well, the minimum height requirement for the British Army was only 160 centimeters. That's 5'3". And Sidney was tall.
I wouldn't have made it. I'm 5'2", y'all.
And heavily built for his age. But since information was often taken at face value, a fake identity was hard to disprove. I mean, there were no computers with the internet to cross-reference a name or double-check if the given age was correct. And even if a boy was turned down by a more cautious recruiter, there was nothing stopping him from trying another recruiting office the next town over. This eagerness might seem strange to us, especially with the benefit of hindsight, but we have to remember that each and every one was suddenly involved with this enormous, all-encompassing war. From kindergarten to university, they were exposed to the constant propaganda. Parents and neighbors constantly talked about the war, and newspapers and magazines were falling all over each other with the newest stories and most exclusive photographs from the front. The store sold tons of wooden guns and swords, and children played.
Hey, I just looked at that picture like, no, you know the fuck they didn't go. That's what I thought. Every time I see a picture of kids dressed up in uniform or something that resembles a uniform, I'm thinking, no. Hey, that 1916 got me fucked up in the head, y'all. That Motorhead got me rocked in the head, bro. Golly, I shouldn't have watched that before I did this.
Germans and French with replica uniforms. France's youth especially was gripped by the omnipresence of the war, being under invasion, and with a deep-seated Germanophobia. It was always assumed that one day some generation would avenge the humiliation of 1871 and return Alsace-Lorraine to the nation. Magazines were not shy of presenting their audience the Petit Bleu, the teenage soldier clad in the blue uniform of the Poilu, going off to fight the Boche, to fight the Hun. A battle near La Bassée in May 1915 was described as follows. 2 French battalions of the line headed the charge, mostly formed of the youngest recruits. The Bavarians held their ground and fought gamely. The youngest soldiers of France rushed the machine guns at no matter what loss, emptied their magazines into the crowded trenches, and then jumped in and fought with the bayonet.
Wait a minute.
France rushed the machine guns at no matter what loss, emptied their
Now, these men that they painted in the portrait looks older than the young men that really did it. They probably just didn't want to paint a bunch of kids doing this, or a bunch of young men doing this. These dudes look like they about 35, 40, about 42 years old.
Magazines into the crowded trenches and then jumped in and fought with the bayonet. In Imperial Russia, although the official draft age was 19, there were reportedly thousands of teenagers dropping out of school to join the regiments at the front. Girls as well would cut off their hair and put on men's clothing to try and join. Medical examinations, if they happened at all, were often just a formality and hastily done. So a teenager with broad shoulders and an acceptable weight and height was good enough to serve in the artillery or carry boxes of ammo for the machine gunners. The Cossacks had a strong tradition of teenagers learning how to ride and fight on horseback. Same went for the Guard regiments, where the rich and important enrolled their sons to serve the Tsar, as well as their own resumes.
That's one of them lines that got me in the Motorhead, boy. In the Motorhead version. And that's...
There were also several frontline units that deployed children as spies, since they were considered less suspicious when they were roaming the countryside between the front lines. War naturally produced more than enough orphans that were left to their own fate. 8-year-old Momcilo Gavric was one of them and became most likely the youngest soldier in uniform during the war, wearing that of the Royal Serbian Army. His family was killed by members of the advancing Croatian Home Guard, who burned down.
Wait. Did he just say he was in? I missed something.
Naturally produced more than enough orphans that were left to their own fate. 8-year-old Momcilo Gavric was one of them and became most likely the youngest soldier in uniform during the war, wearing that of the Royal Serbian Army. His family was killed by members of the advancing Croatian Home Guard, who burned down their house. Gavric found his way to a Serbian artillery battalion who officially adopted him. He would witness battle, was given his own uniform and even formally promoted to corporal and eventually to lance sergeant. Such sons of the regiment were not uncommon, especially in places where the front was not as clear-cut as in the West. In the Ottoman Empire, children had always played a great part when it came to generating patriotism among the populace. Teenagers dressed for war stood at the forefront of ceremonies honoring the fallen. Orphans especially were stylized as the lasting symbols of sacrifice, as they became the sons and daughters of martyrs. The vast majority of Ottoman teenagers were also left unschooled during the war. Instead, they were taken up by paramilitary associations like the Strength Association or the Youth League. All of the warring nations had such outdoor youth clubs and scout movements, often with semi-military undertones. Here, the children wore their own uniforms, badges, and flags. They marched through the country singing patriotic songs or sat together at campfires, sharing stories of military legends and war heroes, stories which the boy soldiers wanted to experience themselves in the Great War of their time. Yet these would very often not have the happy ending they wished for. And someday, that war would end one way or the other. But most soldiers would carry both internal and external scars forever with them. If the violence and horrors could break grown men, then it would most certainly affect the minds of the young. Indeed, many teenagers who came back after months or even just weeks at the front were unable to return to society. Often they were left in a pathological state of trauma and shock. How could anyone expect them to return to school or apprenticeship after witnessing all the death and destruction? Tough to say if these were really the unlucky ones, though, as the graveyards of the Great War are certainly full with graves of underage soldiers. Fake identities mean that we can never be sure how many actually fought and died.
Wait a minute. I'm just now getting it when he said that they won't remember their names. Is it because they use fake names so people don't even know who these children actually are? Their families don't know where these kids went to? Is that why he said that in the song? And that's why they say they'll be, because nobody knows who they are, so they can't remember their names. They could put the fake names on the memorials, but not the real ones. Is that, am I tripping, y'all? Let me know.
And many, many parents would never find their teenage son's final resting place.
Look at this kid. Hopefully he was just one of the orphans that they adopted and he wasn't actually out there on that line, man.
Guts and the blood, and I wept as his body
Grew colder. Look at this, man.
grew colder, and I called for my mother, and she never came, though it was
That boy smoking.
my fault, and I wasn't to blame.
Okay, now we said we are in Mora, which is in Sweden. And tell us a little bit about this tour and why we're here and what we're doing.
This is the second part of the great Swedish tour.
Okay.
We did 30 shows, 30 cities in Sweden.
Yeah.
Very few bands do that. Most, they do Stockholm, Gothenburg, maybe a few more, but we did 30.
Yeah.
And after we did 30, we thought it was so fun, so we found another 20 more cities, including here in Mora, which is where we also decided that that's where we're gonna film the Sabaton History Channel.
So that's why I came up from Stockholm, so that we can do this today. But I saw you guys play at the beginning. I saw you in Eskilstuna last time. Yeah, that was fun. Now, what is so different then, or what is so much fun about touring?
So I wonder if he actually lives in Stockholm. Maybe he got the hell up out the United States. I don't know.
Sweden as opposed to an international tour?
It's quite a lot of different, we get to play a little bit different set.
Yeah.
We play more songs in Swedish than we normally do from Carolus Rex. And we're touring with a stage set that we're currently sitting in that looks very different from what we normally do. You see, we're not sitting on a tank this time.
We are not sitting on a tank this time. We're not surrounded by barbed wire, which is what we like at home even. We're so used to it. Keep barbed wire by the bed at home. My wife goes crazy, but what the heck, realism.
And so it's a little bit different, and the whole idea about this tour was born a little bit about the corona, people shouldn't travel during corona, so we travel to them.
Right.
Now, I know y'all said Sabaton is for everybody, and they are. But I'm definitely going to be the oddball in the crowd. Like, come on, y'all. Like, come on, look at it. I can't wait to get in there and jump around with y'all asses. I can't wait.
And also to make smaller shows in order to, not have super events,
Yeah.
So that was the plan with the idea why we started. Now we are, of course, a couple of years later. Now we're just doing it because we love it so much.
And you're really playing like everywhere. I mean, 50 Swedish places. That's a lot.
Yeah, we play a lot of them, which very few bands have ever been to before. We started a tour in Övertorneå.
Which I've never been to.
And very few people have been.
Yeah.
And now we are here, after a few days, we're here in Mora, which you've never been.
No, I have been to Mora, actually.
Yeah,
I've never played in Mora. Mora was actually, when I first came to Stockholm in 1996, a guy I knew was going skiing in Lofsdalen. And the first time I'd ever been skiing in my life, it took me through Mora. I couldn't speak any Swedish. I'd only been in Sweden for like 3 weeks. This is the second time 25 years later that I've been in Mora. But even like I've toured a lot with Swedish bands around Sweden. I think I've played in like every town in Sweden. I've never played in Mora.
But you've been...
So he's an old band member. Okay. I'm learning about him too. Okay. Hell, I can't remember his name. I'm not too good with names, y'all. I'm not too good with names. But okay, my boy got experience. He ain't just some bullshit ass host or narrator. Like he got some work under his belt. Okay.
In skiing in Mora, did you ski the Vasaloppet?
I did not ski the Vasaloppet. No.
For anybody who doesn't know what Vasaloppet is, it's the biggest skiing competition in the entire world. And the finish line of that one is here. They go actually 90 kilometers.
Yeah.
And it's in the ancient tracks.
Yeah.
Even though it's opposite direction they go now, but it's in the ancient tracks 500 years ago. This year.
This year? Oh, wow, I didn't realize it was this year. Of course this year is the 500th anniversary. Yeah, of course.
So, when the Swedish, who was not yet a king.
Yeah, but going to be king. Going to be.
Soon to be king, went by skiing to escape from the Danish king.
As you do.
As you do, and rally supporters.
And it worked out?
It worked out pretty well. But
have you ever done Vasaloppet?
I have not done Vasaloppet.
But you like skiing?
I like skiing. I skied a lot when I was younger. I was competing in skiing when I was younger. And a long time ago, when we had the World Ski Championship in Falun, I was a small part of the opening ceremony where I ran out with a bubo and gave it to one of the Swedish kings, and then we skied out of the stadium.
That sounds kind of cool. You don't happen to have a video of that, do you?
Maybe it exists in the Swedish television's archive somewhere, but I don't have it. I don't think that anybody else were allowed to bring a camera in there or whatever, or anybody had a camera by then.
Okay. Now, when you guys are on a tour like this, you have a few days off every now and then. Do you guys ever go skiing between shows?
Did we ever go skiing between the shows? I think it has happened. Actually, it has happened. And we were kind of considering doing it yesterday just for the fun of it. Yeah, because we're here, but weather was absolutely shitty.
Oh, okay. Do you prefer slalom or do you do cross country or what do you like?
I prefer cross country.
Yeah.
I think it's more my thing. Okay. I'm not so much for going super fast. Okay. I am more for going and enjoying the ride.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. Now, okay. Since we're not on a tank, and since we wanted to go around the stage, can you talk us around the stage and show us some of the things we're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, this one reflects more the Swedish historical part.
a
even
dope
though
setup.
maybe this castle that we are currently sitting in is maybe not historically accurate looking
dope.
Swedish castle.
Right.
We kind of had to make it exciting looking as well and fit it into the kind of structures that we have around us. But we're sort of sitting on a like a stairs up to the throne where the drums are.
Or King Hannes.
In a King Hannes. Because
Karl den 17 Hannes.
and he's surrounded by his royal guards,
Of course.
who is guarding his royal ass when he's sitting and playing
You
the
guys
drums.
know everything about them. They know about their history, of course.
Yes, of course.
Talked about them.
And yeah, I think we dressed the whole stage in a very different from what we ever toured
Yeah.
in the past, and making it fit for this specific tour.
Now, since you're playing smaller places, they probably, like when you played like way up in Norrland, probably people come from a lot of places, a lot of smaller places. How small are the smaller shows, and how, because you guys used to playing 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people. What's the difference in size here? What are the smaller and bigger ones?
Here, this is one of the smaller ones. Tonight we have about 1,000 people here. And it's
Pretty good to get to see you guys in front of only 1,000 people.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
yeah, it's a smaller.
Man, I could imagine the intensity in that space where it's just 1,000 of them. Because I've only, when I did the come on y'all, the one about the gas, Attack of the Dead Men. When I watched the video of it, that crowd was smaller. But then I saw clips. Oh, wait, was that the small crowd or the huge crowd? I forget, but I saw one of the concerts where it was a shit ton of humans in there. So for this to only be 1,000, like I've been to concerts where it's just 1,000 people, like, you know what I'm saying, max capacity, 880 people. And those are usually the most lit concerts because it's like everybody in there feeling it, everybody agree with each other, everybody looking at each other, saying the lyrics. Like, oh man, I could just imagine this though. I can imagine it.
Smaller style arena. We are on this tour. We are not doing the huge scale arenas. We're doing a little bit smaller arenas, and most of the places are around 2,000.
Okay. And have you been? Excuse me. Have you been going, back to Falun occasionally between dates, or are you really just doing it on tour?
We were discussing, several of us, that yesterday because we were so close to home that we would drive home, but it's in the beginning of the tour. There's still some things we need to fix, to work on, to fine-tune. That's why we needed to stay with the rest of the crew.
Interestingly enough, though, since you're doing all these shows, you're not playing in Stockholm on this tour.
That is true.
Why is that?
Because we have another show in Stockholm where we don't have this set.
Yeah.
Where we have the big set with tanks.
But that's on your full European tour,
Yeah.
where you play all the capitals and everything.
Yeah.
And when is that? That's April and May.
April, May, yeah.
Okay. So this whole springtime is going to be big touring.
Yes.
And the summer?
The summer, it's going to be a little bit more quiet for us than usual when it comes to touring.
Yeah.
But we'll be busy anyway. We always have stuff to do.
Yeah, you've got to record the Great War Volume 3, obviously. You could literally do 10 albums about the Great War and not run out of songs.
That is true.
Wow.
We are well aware of that, but at some point we also need to look to some
Okay, so I'll take it by now. There's two versions. There's the Great War, then there's the Great War Volume 2, is what I'm guessing here.
other historical part of the history.
You know what I
ages.
was just thinking? When you're touring Sweden, obviously Joachim speaks Swedish between songs.
Joachim.
That is a difference
That's
as well.
not what he does in, say, England.
No.
Right? No. That's he's funny in both, actually. I'm not funny in Swedish. The worst thing is, I think I'm funny in Swedish, but I'm not. So, but Jocke is funny in English and in Swedish.
So Joachim, I saw how they spell his name, and I told y'all before about how I was in a group called the Embassy with me, my brother Ko, and our friend Doe. Doe's from Jamaica. His name is Joachim. That's his name, and it's spelled the same. Like, they spell their name the same, but his name is Joachim.
That works out.
Yep.
So the band is all here now. This is afternoon when we're shooting this, by the way, guys. We shot 3 regular episodes, and I changed clothes between them even though it's the same location because continuity, right? And so we've got a couple hours before the show. What are we going to do?
maybe there are gonna be some sound checking here.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
So some crew members gonna need the stage, and today there is some stuff. I was earlier at the museum here.
Okay.
Anders Zorn, painter.
Yeah.
And there was a Viking.
I like Anders Zorn.
There was a Viking exhibition there.
Oh, cool. I went to National Museum on Saturday. I woke up with my wife in the morning and kind of tired because we had a late night Friday, and I was lying in bed and I'm like, we should go to a museum today. But I hadn't been since they reopened it and stuff. That's a good one. We get sidetracked easily, me and Kara.
A lot of people always they say, oh, you're in this town, you need to go and see this museum and this museum, and there's so many museums that we never been to, and most of the time I'm not so excited to go to a museum either, because if there is nobody there to tell the full story behind it, normally you're just looking at some object and reading a little sign, and that's it. You don't get the full context of it. But if you would know, and if you have somebody who's interested in it with you,
tells you why,
then everything turns to be something different. And tips for any of you guys who sometimes invite us to museums when we are coming on tour to your city is to come up with a great guide as well. Because a great guide is what makes a great museum.
Now, we've talked about possibly in the future about me following you guys on a tour one day and doing some historical tours of the different places. That'd be kind of cool, but that'll be in the future. Oh, one quick question though, about the song. Are you playing it live already?
We haven't decided yet if we're gonna play that song live on this tour. I mean, obviously here, when we're filming this, none of you have ever heard the song, and we're not gonna spoil it tonight here in Mora.
No.
But when you are watching this, the song is out. Maybe we're playing it on tour. We don't know yet. It's a little bit up to how the people, receive a song, and
this
if
is
people like it.
Yeah, it's hard not to like. I mean, I love the song, from the beginning, and I've heard your version of it, and I think it's a really great cover, great homage, good all around. And that's why we're doing 3 episodes about it.
Yes,
it deserves it. It needs it.
It's a little bit different vibe over it as well.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's different for them to do, and it's different for you to do.
Yeah.
So. Okay, well, that is it for today.
Thank you for watching, and hope to see you soon again here
on Sabaton History.
Okay. Do I play the music? I want to see the crowd, so I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna just keep pausing it, y'all. Bro, why does his camos match his guitar so goddamn good? Oh no, they lit. They lit as fuck. Good Adidas work boots. Hell you talking about? You see him? Boy look like the real Bane. This man look like Bane without the mask. My boy look like he will hand wrestle you, arm wrestle you, and when he takes you down, your whole caliber breaks, whatever, your whole elbow snaps off and just dangles afterwards. The day's not half over, the 10,000 slain, and now there's nobody. Look at that. That's fire, man. That's fire. Members are named. Pause it before the build up. Okay, let's go. And that's how it is for a soldier. That shot, let me tell you something. Whoever he is in the group, I know that, like he said, like his bandmate said, he's sitting on top of the throne with his royal ass or king ass, whatever he said. I know he got this picture framed. I'll put this shit in my bathroom above the toilet. I'll put the shit in front of the toilet too, on the wall in front of you. You gotta look at me You got to look at this epic shit while you shitting too. I'll put this shit in the foyer. Put this shit above the bed. Look at this. Like, people don't get, like, this is, like, people don't get to experience these experiences like this, man, and have these type of moments captured by them, of them. People don't get to do that. So I don't know. It's shit cool.
Thanks for watching this episode of Sabaton History Channel. Please remember to click that little bell so that you get notifications the next time we release an episode. Also remember to subscribe, and then we will see each other in the future. Thank you.
All right. I like it. That was part 2. I hope it goes up without me having to mute the words and all of that. I hope I stopped it enough. If not, I tried, y'all. Y'all literally watch me try. I guess, do I do part 3 now? Do I have time? I don't know, but I will get to part 3. I'm trying to do these in order. I don't know. I think I'm about to see how long part 3 is because I didn't check. With that being said, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. I hope you guys are enjoying these as much as I am. This shit is amazing to me. Learning all of these new things and actually retaining some of the information, man. Like, I'm retaining some of this shit now. Like, I feel like, I don't know, man. I don't know, but I like it. With that being said, I'm out, y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all on part 3. Peace.